GoDaddy is our sponsor for our coverage from OpenStack in Barcelona. Our theme for the conference, diversity and inclusion in the OpenStack ecosystem. Learn more about GoDaddy's diversity efforts at godaddy.com. In this interview from OpenStack Barcelona, we had the chance to sit down with Sriram Subramanian, CEO of CloudDon, well-known analyst in the community. And we discussed Sriram's view on being someone from India and how it is to fit into the tech culture, encompassing topics such as diversity and inclusion. Hey, it's Alex Williams, the new stack at OpenStack Barcelona, and here with an old colleague and friend in this world of OpenStack and everything else. Sriram Subramanian, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Oh yeah, it's always nice to chat with you. We were actually talking over breakfast a little bit, and because we were talking about this whole topic of diversity and inclusion, that we're looking at, about OpenStack and just overall. And one of the questions that that I'd asked Judy about, I was thinking about who we would interview. And we talked about, would it be interesting to interview you? Because, we're interested, in just kind of like diversity overall. And you were having some interesting kind of insights into like the role that your perspectives on diversity, and coming from your perspective as someone who's from India, but you're also in tech. There's a lot of men from India in the community, and how does that kind of correlate to the OpenStack and kind of what we're seeing happening right now in the world?
Absolutely, thank you. And first of all, thanks a lot for talking about this. Right, it's a very important topic. I would say, no more than interesting, it's a very important topic, and unless we all consciously talk about this, we won't be improving on diversity wherever we go. So thank you so much for bringing this up and doing the podcast here. So interesting things. Right? So let me how we all describe ourselves in a different way, and then people tend to see you in a different way, right? Typically, when people look at me, Indian male working in tech industry, right? So the first question is do you feel like safe in the conferences? Do you feel like a minority, or do you feel any kind of diversity issues, right? So I'll kind of break that into two parts, right? So where I come from India, right? I'm a male. Of course, you can call that as an equivalent of a white privileged male, equivalent of that in India, right? So I come from a class which is traditionally all privileged, not financially well, but class-wise privileged, right? So a lot of things I wouldn't have noticed because of the way that I was there. But once I come here, right, it's even though we're in high tech, financially well-to-do kind of segment, but we are minority.
Right.
So that's always there, and particularly in tech conferences, right? I kind of feel I don't belong to the majority of white male class. But however, I don't see the problems, or I don't see the issues that underrepresented minorities face, like women or blacks or the people of right. So I kind of fall somewhere in between. So my hope is eventually we have more people, more participation from underrepresented minorities, whether it is however you call that and however they define it. I think that is the one that I want to get to there.
Right. Yeah. The definition.
Yeah, definition, right? So it's very we all go by various kind of definitions. These things could keep expanding. I think my point of view is, I think however they feel however a person relate themselves to be, that's how we can define it, right? And then do they feel included? Do they feel somebody out there to support them? That's more important. So the example that I can bring up here is we had OpenStack Day Seattle. We've been having it for 2 years consecutively, and we had diversity scholarships to encourage more that's how we started. We wanted to encourage more women to participate in the conference. Then it kind of evolved into like, why just women, right? Like, we have people of color being underrepresented.
Right.
Like, can you improve them, right? So then we had it open, and then we tried to popularize that. We tried to get help from our female tech people to kind of popularize that, people of color, right? So we didn't define this is who we can apply. Like, you have to be a certain classified person to be applied that. We just let it to be like open. So whoever feels like they belong to a underrepresented classification by themselves, we let them apply. So interestingly, like, we had applications from women in the US applying for the scholarship. We had one application from India, one application from China, right? And they both are Chinese male and Indian male. So what it tells is that, like, the Indian male or Chinese male might feel like a minority here, even though, like, the men are not minority here in conferences, right? So that's kind of an interesting perspective that it showed up. Like, okay, that's how I think I would proceed with that. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So kind of in that context, then, what are the barriers that are facing the male Indian who's in the tech world that we may not kind of see on the surface, every day? Because because we do see so many, men in the community who are from India.
That's right. As I said, like, it's not like it is not a big of a barrier that like women typically would face, or but there's a certain barriers, like, we may not be good at language, for instance. We might have the accent problems, right? And we may not even feel confident to, like, talk to or present to in presenting ourselves to, like, a white male.
Right.
So that's, and then the other thing that I see is, like, at least the way that most of us grew up, like, the communicating with women, we are not very good at that. So, like, how do we, how are you correct in, like,
is that because of the gender separation?
Gender separation back in India, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, for instance, hugging is a very shows a good rapport between two persons here, right? Right. But that's not how it is. Like, it seems to be a PDA there, right?
Right.
So, like, but when do you feel comfortable? When do you comfortable doing that? And what is the right, like, it's all personal, right? But again, like, I think there are certain things that I faced. I've overcome that. I've learned over that. But but soon I think those are all the certain things that I, as an Indian male, have faced in conferences. Again, I want to clarify one though, right? There is no way compared to, like, what women would face, right?
Right.
So I don't want to sound like a crying baby.
Right.
But this is it's there. We won't talk about that, but it's there, right? It's a reality, and what we can do about that, I'm not very sure, but at least it's there, and we need to,
So, when you've been pretty involved in the OpenStack community over the years and such, and how have you viewed your participation there, and what is your role in OpenStack now? I know you organize OpenStack Seattle.
That's right. Yeah. So I've been part of the OpenStack community from, like, very early days, and I used to play a different kind of roles. Right? I'd been an operator at some point. I'd been even a developer at some point, a doc writer, and all those things, right? So from the diversity point of view, I try to encourage more participation by, like, diversity scholarships in the organization that we do, and then being open for mentoring to anybody that available. I'm listed as, like, available speaker in other events. So. I'm also part of the Women of OpenStack group. Having said that, I think one thing which is great about how the foundation or the community is encouraging that the Women of OpenStack initiatives, travel support program for women, and all those things are really good. But I want to be very cautious though. I think it is not enough to just, like, ask women just to go on and just do your things on your own. I don't think that that's necessarily an inclusion that might help in increasing the count, like the number of attendee count, but I think, like, there should be more participation together, right? Not just women, not just, like, people of color. It is important for us to increase their percentage of participation. However, it is important that they don't feel excluded. All the events need to be, like, kind of inclusive, and it goes both way, right? Like, we had we had I think one of the Women of OpenStack lunch some time ago. I don't remember which summit was that. So I was like, I was hesitant, like, can I go there? Can I not go there? The team members were fascinated. Like, no, they were fantastic. They said, like, no, don't feel excluded. Please join us. It is run by Women of OpenStack, but it is no mean exclusive Women of OpenStack, right? But however, there is always, like, there's an impression that one might have, like, oh, this Women of OpenStack event, so then men are not allowed. Right. We had like 4 or 5 men attending there, and those things I think we can improve upon.
Right. So what's your impression here of the OpenStack conference so far?
Oh, it's been great, and it's always been great. I want to highlight that, right? Like, I think it kind of goes with how do you improve or how do you make it better, right? So we had 5 keynote speakers on stage today, 5 women keynote speakers on stage today, which I think it's a little bit better than 4 at Austin. Right. So it is important that, like, we have women, talented, who are like, qualified on their own. Doesn't matter about their gender. Like, they're fantastic people, fantastic speakers to be on stage. But it's heartening to see that we have more women speakers. I also would like to see, like, we try to make a conscious effort to improve, like, whether it's people of different color or different orientation or, like, whatever. Like, so we can have more such. People attending there, like, when you see them on stage, you are showing an indication that the community is welcoming, not just having a separate boxed events, like, just this is for women of OpenStack, this is for blacks of OpenStack, this is for browns of OpenStack, right. Like, not like that. So yeah. And the other thing I would like to kind of talk to we've been having so many events, right? Like, we had the OpenStack Summit here, and then about 30 OpenStack days all over the world. I really want the other organizers to kind of take the lead and follow up and try to do something to improve on diversity and inclusivity, right? And other thing is kind of take it upon further, right? It's not about just the gender or the race. We should think about people with disabilities, for instance, right? Right. How do we make the experience better? Like, can we provide, like, with headphones, for instance, or can we provide with captioning, for instance, or things like that? We tried to do that this year, but it didn't work out. We were kind of, and there's
the LGBTQ community too.
Yes, that's right. So we should do that as much as possible. But most importantly, I think it is important to have them feel welcomed and included, not just think about increase the percentage of the participation, but I think we should have a participation together. That's just more important. Right.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time, Sriram. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much. And I also, I know that TNS has been very progressive, very inclusive, the site. And I would also appreciate, like, what our TNS can do to improve diversity in tech in general, not just in OpenStack.
That's a big mission of ours, and we want to focus on that more in 2017. Yeah. So
thank you, Alex.
We'll be doing more.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
GoDaddy is our sponsor for our coverage from OpenStack in Barcelona. Our theme for the conference, diversity and inclusion in the OpenStack ecosystem. Learn more about GoDaddy's diversity efforts at godaddy.com.